Welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to be making an MBTI and Enneagram analysis on Adelaide Drubman and Jess Black, who are the only remaining guns for hire we haven't typed. And we'll be starting with Adelaide, aka Addie. Addie was born in 1952, Hope County, Montana, and married Herc Durbin Sr. in her 20s. They shared their love for Reagan, Jesus Christ, and NRA. It was a match made in heaven. But soon their son, Herc, was born, and then Herc Sr.'s attention started drifting to other interests. During that time, Addie became more and more unhappy. She continued working the family business without pay. After a decade of indifference, she decided to leave her husband. And because she's a smart woman, she filed a divorce and won over his marina. And finally, she got to be herself, where she lived her life to the fullest with booze, bazookas, and boy toys. And then Eden's Gate attacked. And that concludes her backstory. And now we're going to be starting off with her first function, which is SE, Extroverted Sensing. Addie is a bigger-than-life character. If you were meant to ask her interests, she would mention that her interests are men, helicopters, explosions, adrenaline, and lots of intercourse.
That might be a sex thing. It's hard to know with Addie.
With everyone, but mostly Xander now. I mean, she even had a group of old lady friends, and they took their helicopters out and just drove around the town causing mayhem.
We all used to fly together on weekends, but that friendship went tits up after those thunder cunts joined Eden's Gate. So I got no problem if you accidentally shoot them in their disloyal faces.
By the way, she enjoys helicopters so much that she has her own, and she decided to call that helicopter Tulip.
If there's a woman at the stick, eyes her and go find my Tulip.
By the way you get her as a gun-for-hire companion is by getting back her helicopter, which was stolen by the cult. And once you do, and you call her on missions, she's going to be in that helicopter going crazy, being like, yeah, explosions, and blowing everyone up to hell, just because she can. With that all being said, her next function is TI, Introverted Thinking. And you can see this within her reasoning. She enjoys finding flaws in arguments. And luckily, we have two solid examples of this. And the funniest part is, we're going to be analyzing the character that she actually is arguing with. The first example of this is when Jess argues that Addie shouldn't be sleeping with Xander because Xander is younger than her. It's disgusting. And Addie says, what's the difference between them and the men in Hollywood who date younger women or older women that are dating younger men in Hollywood? There is no difference.
Needed to get that off your chest, huh? Fucking gross. He's an adult. All the men in Hollywood get away with that and more. That's different. You tell yourself that, sweetheart.
And she's right. The principle is exactly the same. The only difference is you perceive it differently. The second example is when she questions the effectiveness of Xander's brain smoothie. And because it's supposed to boost your brain power and the way you function, it wouldn't make sense that he crashed the dredge after drinking it.
If Xander's brain-boosting smoothie worked like he claims, he never would have crashed that dredge. Oh well, at least the pineapple keeps him tasting great.
Addie's tertiary function is FE, Extroverted Feeling, and she also uses this function relatively well. In fact, she uses this function almost as good as she uses her TI function. But because it's an externalized function, she shows it more. And we can see her usage in this in the way that she gets what she wants. And what she wanted was a boy toy, like Xander. And the way she works with him is so simple. She harmonizes with his emotions. She gives him what he wants and makes him feel like a king. And that keeps him with her.
Avocado. You can tell the difference because...
We got it, Muffin. Don't you worry. They're gonna regret meeting me and the deputy.
Another indicator of FE is how she expresses her emotions. She's very honest and open. Addie doesn't hold emotions back, positive or negative. She lets them all out regardless of the situation. And this leads to very funny conversations occasionally.
I just don't get what everyone sees in Faith. Sure, she's young and hot and crazy, but if you're gonna play catch, wouldn't you want a mitt that's been worn in?
Jacob's gotta die.
The final indicator for an FE function is how she values harmony. Instead of fighting and arguing, she rather just resolve the situation, get it over with, so she could continue with her life.
Me and Daddy got along just fine without you, thanks for asking, Mama.
I wasn't asking. I knew you'd be fine. Lord, it's not like I stabbed your father or something.
You stabbed him in the heart metaphorically and in the bank account.
You go on thinking that, sweetheart.
And now it's time for her inferior function, which is NI, Introverted Intuition. Addie doesn't seem to be using NI much in the game. However, she does in her history. She's able to keep Herc Sr.'s business going. She's the one that controls it, while he goes around lollygagging and meandering around.
Ah, I see you picked up some trash along the way. Hello, Adelaide. She's refused to speak to me for the last 17 years.
However, with our brief short time with her, we can only see one example of a NI function that is not very useful. And this is the example where she's talking to you about how she got her fun parts waxed, and she saw an angel. And this is when her gut started acting up and was trying to give her cues that this was a bad idea. Her NI function is trying to warn her that this person's not okay. And instead of following that, she just figured, oh no, maybe it's because I just recently got waxed.
I was coming back from getting my Brazilian the first time I saw one of them angels walking along the side of the road. I got a real chill down my spine. Didn't realize what it was at the time. Should have trusted my gut, but I thought it was because my yoni was naked and I was going commando in a sundress.
Even Herc has a more developed NI function than Addie. She mostly just ignores it and does what she wants. However, she's smart, so she doesn't get herself in too much danger, unlike Herc. But when she apologizes to Herc and says that he's okay, Herc immediately says, oh, we're gonna have matching tattoos one day.
Herc, I'll say this only once or twice, so listen up.
Yeah?
You're not a complete fuck-up.
I love you, Mama. We gonna have matching tattoos before you know it. Just you watch.
And the funny thing is, they end up with matching tattoos. I don't know if this was designed on purpose beforehand to give you an example that it would happen and that they made up, but it's there, so he's right. And that concludes our MBTI analysis of Adelaide Drubman. She's a decently healthy ESTP with an underdeveloped NI function and a really healthy FE function. Also, I have a bonus fact for you guys. Addie has an any hole list for men that she finds attractive, such as Nick Rye, John Seed, Jerome Jeffries, and apparently Joseph Seed.
I wish Pastor Jerome wasn't such a goody two-shoes. There's something about the idea of corrupting a man of the cloth that is so hot. He's on my any hole list for sure, right next to Nick Rye and John Seed.
Whips and chains and Joseph Seed.
Our next analysis is Jessica Black, aka Jess Black. She was born in Hope County, Montana in 1991. Her parents were frequently out of work and moved around town a lot. And this caused a lot of issues for Jess, because she was found to be in fistfights in school hallways, doing late night graffiti, and dealing drugs and petty theft, and even setting fire to the principal's car. And to make things better, she eventually ran away from home and joined her badass grandma, who taught her everything she knew. And by everything, I mean how to survive in the wild, because her grandmother was a hardcore prepper and survivalist. Eventually, when her grandmother passed, Jess left and she went back to her parents. And this is where her life took a turn for the worst. During the night when everyone was sleeping, a cultist henchman called the Cook broke through her house and abducted her and her parents. And what the Cook did was horrible. He starved them and tortured them relentlessly. And eventually, he burned her parents at the stake and offered her parents to her as food. Jess never tells you how she escapes. She doesn't even tell you that she was the child or was her parents, but it is very obvious that it was. And that leads to the modern day, and this starts our analysis of Jess. I believe her primary function is an immature TI function, introverted thinking. The reason why her TI is so distorted is because of the trauma she endured throughout her whole life. At some point during the game, when you start talking to her more, Jess admits that she didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. And then she realizes something. She says, the thing I'm good at is killing people.
I didn't know what I was good at. Now I know. I'm good at killing Colt with a bow. What the fuck am I gonna do when this ends? Flip burgers? Wash dishes?
So she makes a deduction that she should continue killing people because it's what she knows how to do and she wants to specialize in it. Another indicator for TI function is how she enjoys sitting back and analyzing things before she acts. She wants to understand it, and once she understands something enough, she will act upon her understanding of it and test it. And you can see this both in her gameplay style and her reasoning style.
Try quieter weapon.
Like your bow?
Yeah. Then the Peggies won't hear you coming. They just go down.
Sweetheart, You want them to hear you coming when they go down.
In gameplay style, she has her bow and arrow, she stays silent, and she takes out enemies silently because she knows if they hear her, they're going to sound off an alarm. It's going to be more dangerous for her and you, and it makes no logical sense to endanger yourselves. She would rather play it smart and slow because then at least you're safe. And in a way, that's exactly how TI functions. It takes information, it analyzes it, and it takes a long time to process it because it wants to go through every single detail before it comes to conclusion. It's not as impulsive as a TE function, which sees information, says, okay, here's the value, and goes for it. But due to her TI function being a little immature, she comes to conclusions a little too fast when it comes to reasoning with another person.
Jess, you know, I like you.
Yeah? Remind you of yourself from like 40 years ago?
No, the opposite. Took me a while to wise up, but you're already there.
Huh. Okay.
Her secondary function is very obviously SE, extroverted sensing. This one is self-explanatory. Just look at the way Jess plays. Yes, it ties in with her TI function because she looks at things and studies them first. But the way that she moves, the way that she analyzes her surroundings, how she hunts, Jess is in tune with her environment. It's almost as if she is part of the environment. Another indicator, which is not that surprising, is that she's an adrenaline junkie.
Cool, you just ran over their face!
She enjoys the rush of being in the moment. She almost sounds blissful when she sees the cult members. Sometimes she's like, peekaboo, I see you.
Peek-a-fucking-boo, I see you!
It's just really random and funny. If you really think about it, the only reason why she's that excited to sing them is because she gets to not be bored anymore, so she could shoot them in the face and entertain herself. Her third function is NI, introverted intuition. And for her age, it's pretty well developed. She's able to notice certain patterns and makes pretty accurate predictions. She foreshadows that something bad's gonna happen to Eli because Eli is not concerned enough with his surroundings. He thinks it's gonna be okay. She thinks it isn't.
Eli's pretty relaxed about all this shit. Said whitetail morale is good. Folks are feeling strong. Me, I think this is bigger than he realizes. But I ain't worried or anything.
She also makes a connection with Jacob and her cousin Rick. Her cousin Rick microwaved their cat, and then moved on to kill the family. Apparently she predicted this, so she stayed away.
He reminds me a lot of my cousin Rick, who's on death row. Once when I was 7, Rick put our cat in the microwave. Sick fuck. He moved on to killing his whole family later. I saw it coming the whole way.
I've also noticed something else about her. When she doesn't have enough information, she loops her TI and NI function. She notices something's wrong, such as the wolves vanishing from the Whitetail Mountain region, and she doesn't understand why, but it worries her.
They're like top of the food chain around here. No animal's gonna mess with them.
And this happens too in the Herbane River area, where she notices an older gentleman having a bad trip on the Bliss. However, she doesn't know that it's the Bliss, and this causes her to speculate of the future and what it can be.
Man, I saw this super old dude tripping balls the other day. He was probably like 50, but he was right fucked. What the hell was he on?
All she knows is it's messed up. And her inferior function is the FE function, extroverted feeling. Due to it being the inferior function, it's not very well developed. However, she still does use it moderately. When Jess communicates, she's more concerned with communicating the point than watching her tone than anything. She doesn't so much care about your emotion. She cares about you hearing her message, even if it's offensive. And it does come off as offensive half the time. And she does this a lot with Adelaide.
Addie Xander is young enough to be your fucking kid. It's fucking gross.
He's an adult.
When they're speaking, she'll accuse her of being a gold digger or accuse her of sleeping with younger men and not caring about it, and she thinks it's disgusting.
Getting rich off of divorce. Must be nice.
You think I'm a bimbo who doesn't deserve it, huh?
Hey, I just know what I heard.
Jess, you don't know shit.
But even at that, she still does very much care for people. She just prefers not speaking about it. That concludes her MBTI analysis of Jess Black. She's an ISTP. But wait, there's more. We have the Enneagrams, and they're up next. First up is Adelaide Drubman. Now here's my question to you. What drives her the most? What is her driving force? Well, if you look at her actions and how much she enjoys pleasure and how it literally controls her life, it's clear to me that her biggest fear is to be void of pleasure and be stuck in pain and being bored. And that would highly suggest that she's an Enneagram 7. And I don't believe that she's an unhealthy Enneagram 7 either. She seems to be right smack in the middle. She tries balancing her pleasure and experiences and using that to learn in life. Sure, she indulges herself within sexual activities, but she's still able to function outside of that. As for her wing, I say she leans towards a 6, because she is interested in commitment and wants to be with someone. And she is fearful of certain situations. It took her a decade for a reason to leave Herc's father. She was duty-bound, and this is one of the challenge of being a wing 6, is you take those duties very seriously, maybe to the point where it controls your life. It could be fear-induced, where you don't want to fail, or maybe she even felt guilty. It came to the point where what she was working on, she eventually took with her, which was the marina, which in turn brought her balance. And that concludes that she's a 7 wing 6. Next up, we have Jess Black, and from what I noticed about her is she likes to analyze and watch things, but at the same time she's very mistrustful of anything around her. She doesn't really like new things until she could study them, and when she understands them, then she wants to engage them. But due to her weighing a little more towards fear, I would believe that she would be an Enneagram 6. She looks for hidden dangers and risks, and tries to find ways around them to avoid them so she can protect herself. And this is where her wing ties in perfectly. She is a wing 5, so she's able to take situations, tear them apart, and analyze them. Yes, this does make her more fearful, and maybe that's why she has the bow and arrow in order to protect herself, so she doesn't alert everyone, but it also makes her very smart. And that leads me to believe that she's a 6 wing 5. And she's not completely unhealthy. She's more in the middle too, surprisingly, because she's been through trauma and suffered a lot through her life. So I would expect her to be more broken than she is, but she's clearly a very strong woman. And that concludes this video. If you like what you see, feel free to join my cult on YouTube. And know how you do that? You press the subscribe button so you can get more of this content. I like to inspire other channels. I want to see you guys make your own MBTI videos and Enneagram videos or anything psychology related of video game characters you like. Let's breathe light into psychoanalysis or just psychology in general. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very much for watching once again. Have a nice night, evening, or day.